You'll know when you have a wild woman. She'll practice her craft without boundaries. She is truly autonomous. Her loyalty is only to the family she serves, a midwife who will not allow herself to be held back by a system she didn't create.
This podcast is for the birth keepers who want to grow and change. We are open to learning through self-reflection and supportive community. We are creating this space to explore without judgment. We are remembering we were
Born wild.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Born Wild podcast. We're your hosts, Sophia,
Emma,
and Leah.
What's our update for the week? Let's see. I went to a beautiful birth, first-time mama, who I'm sure will love to share her story in a few months. We had a baby who needed a little attention, but we didn't need to do any resuscitation, and we had a postpartum hemorrhage that needed attention, but no Pitocin or anything like that. So yes, we were able to stay home, and I think that's one important piece about home birth support is a lot of times, most of the time, you can stay home even if there's some complications. How were your weeks?
It was good. I feel like you have more to share about your exciting personal week, though, with your new assistant and things like that.
Oh, yeah. I hired a personal assistant, so I've officially made it big.
That's huge.
I was walking with a friend who hired one to support her running her business. And I was thinking, I want that. And will she also order me deodorant when I get low? Like, will she cross over into my personal life? Mm-hmm. So, because I don't know how it is for you ladies, but I think of all the things I need to do when I'm driving. Mm-hmm. And then 2 weeks later, I'm like, gosh, dang it, I never did any of those. And I have lists and like to-do lists and all that, and they just keep building and getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And I address the ones that are most important, and then the rest kind of just sit there. So I'm really excited to get it out of my brain and hand it over to someone and take on projects that I've always wanted to do in my business, but just felt like there's no way I don't have the time to do that and manage it. Sorry, that was my phone. We're all on call, but this person is not in labor. So that's really exciting. We'll see how it goes. We're going to kind of learn together. So
that's great. It's like being a badass business owning.
You know, you've made it,
mom.
Pretty much.
Woman.
A dream come true.
My week has been good. I was doing that overnight work, just picking up a little extra, which is always fun to do temporarily. There are women who do that for their main work, a lot of it, and my hat is off to them. But it was really sweet. The baby was really, really lovely. But I was ready to be back in my own bed. So I'm excited to just have that be the case. Mm-hmm. Except births, which I'm always okay not being in my own bed for births. I started trying to be more physical this week. I have in the past been very active and just really love hiking, and I used to trail run like almost daily, and I just during COVID nonsense just stopped doing all that for a variety of reasons. So it's been feeling good.
You're like, I'll just stop until this is over.
Right.
And then a year later, oh, wait.
Oh, right. Yeah, I think it coincided with a lot of other things happening in my life where I was just like, I'm just going to not do this for a little while and see how it feels in my body. And my body feels like a piece of concrete. So I'm over that feeling. So I've been doing yoga, and I actually this morning I was doing a little bit outside and thinking about the potential now to do some yoga classes for my family, some privates. And, we talked about doing some yoga as a podcast.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
But that kind of was fun. It was just like remembering that piece of myself. So that feels good. And a couple interviews this week. Ready for some some fall babies,
Mhm.
some winter babies. And then, yeah, just a lot of really good feedback from Erica's interview. It's interesting, as you guys probably have had this experience, is it's just so connected, the world of, for me, it's like the world of dance and birth and healers and just people that I had no idea knew each other reached out after the pod and were like, oh, I've known her forever. And,
that's cool.
you know, just really appreciated her attitude about, you know, how to bring your baby in and things where I was like, of course you know each other.
Yeah.
You're both rad.
You're both rad.
Mhm.
And just, you know, our people.
Mm-hmm.
Our people. So that's my week.
Yeah, she was amazing, man. I re-listened to the podcast and I took even more away than when I was watching. I wish we would have recorded visual of her because she's just so fun to
Mhm.
watch when she talks.
Mhm.
But man, yeah, that was really, really incredible. As somebody that's trying to have a baby, I was like, woo, yeah, everybody needs to hear this.
Mhm.
Yeah, my week was good. I went to a birth. I hope you guys can't hear our girls being heffalumps upstairs, but at least they're having fun. I went to a birth. It was amazing. And I noticed a variation of a placenta that I'd never seen
Mhm,
before, which was pretty cool as a student. It's called placenta fenestrata. If any of you midwives have seen that out there. It's interesting because it's supposed to be really rare. And the midwife that I attended the birth with said that she sees them 2 or 3 times a year in this area of Northern California, Mendocino County specifically. Wondering if it's like an environmental thing or because of the Northern California fires. I don't know.
Do you think it's pot?
No. I would be.
I mean, that's a blanket statement, but I'm just curious.
Well, this mama
'Cause that's the
definitely
only
did
thing
not
with-
smoke.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've heard some placenta stuff. With
Secondhand.
No. I mean, yeah, but she,
Mhm.
yes, but no, she was not that type of person. No hate at all. Trust me. But interesting to see, I guess, nutrition. Have you guys ever seen that?
I have never seen it.
I saw.
Looks like that.
I looked at the pictures. Like I googled the name, which sounds like a pasta dish.
It does.
Yeah, that's what you said.
I
when
know.
you
Well,
told-
I think it's pasta.
You're
She's
like,
that's not right.
It's Italian.
Placenta
It's Italian.
pasta.
You know, in Utah, I saw so many variations of placentas that I've never hadn't seen before and haven't seen since. And I'm convinced it was environmental and nutritional. Like where it looked like I couldn't really see from the pictures of the Google, but what I could relate it to was looking like someone just like hole punched
Yeah.
the placenta.
Yeah.
And I do remember seeing that a couple times. But then also like placentas that just like crumble in your hands, like
Yeah.
hamburger meat.
Yeah.
You know,
I have seen that.
or ones that are like, you know, the size of hamburgers or odd lobes that are like, you know, because you see placentas with multiple lobes, but where it looks like odd, like not a healthy, like, oh, look, this placenta has.
Or my son's placenta.
Yes.
It looked almost white.
Yeah. But his were births that like there wasn't any other. I don't know if Ben's placenta was connected to his condition. I mean, probably.
Well, I think that it's more connected with my bleeding because I bled for so long that it just looked anemic, you know, that's what I took from it.
Yeah. It was definitely interesting to see the different types of placental health there versus here. What did can we say the midwife whose birthday was? Lisa, what did Lisa say about it?
She said that it's interesting that she actually, when she sees a really nutrient rich placenta that's like the standard size, and she's like, that's rare to me now. She's like, I'm always seeing something that's kind of wonky.
Interesting.
And she's like, since COVID, which is interesting. She said she's talked to other midwives, and since the lockdown, maybe it's stress, I don't know, but she said that she's only been seeing placentas that have like some weird variation. So we had an interesting conversation about that because I've seen some interesting placentas in the year that I've apprenticed. So, you know, I don't have a lot to base it off of, but
Yeah, I mean, it was interesting because for me, took one look at that and I'm like, is that retained? And she's like, no. So it was like how, trying to teach me to look for, like what to look for so that I, know that that's what that is and it's not retained. Yeah.
Interesting.
It was interesting.
Cool. It can be hard to see with placentas sometimes when there's like a variation and looking for whether it's like a jagged tear, like, or if it's just grown in a that piece missing, or it's got a battledore insertion or like something that's not crazy but not completely typical, whether it's like if it's retained or if it's abnormal, like whether it's like there's pathology to it or if it's just a weird looking placenta.
My favorite thing to see when I'm examining placentas is the yolk sac. Have you come across that before?
Yolk sac.
Yeah, I haven't seen it in quite a while, but when I was a doula and a student midwife and I was processing a lot more placentas, and so seeing a lot more than just my practice, I saw a lot of yolk sacs. Usually they were within the membrane. So if you're not examining the membrane, you might miss it, like if you're just focusing on the meat of the placenta, but it will be within the 2 layers of the membrane, and it looks like a bell pepper seed.
I've totally seen it.
That's
I didn't even know
the
that's
yolk
what that
sac.
was.
And a lot of times it just gets absorbed within the placenta, so you don't see it. It's always there, but it's just like within it somewhere. But occasionally it's on the membranes, and then you can really see it. And it's really cool to show families that, this is the first thing that sustained your baby, before the placenta took over.
Yeah, that's super rad.
Yeah, it's neat.
When people come to me, and which is like, I don't know, at least half of people are like, oh, well, of course I found out I was pregnant after I went to Vegas, or like I was at a wedding and everybody's been drinking or doing some kind of activity. They're concerned, and I'm always like, the yolk sac. Nature's way of continuing itself without birth defects.
Idiocracy.
Yeah,
that's great. Cool. Good check-in, ladies.
Yeah, well, we could just roll with placentas.
I was gonna say, it kind of sounds like we're talking about that right
Yeah.
now. Yeah.
Well, in the birth you had talked about, there was an element of the placenta where it was just sitting there before you had noticed bleeding.
Yeah. This last birth I was at, we had gotten her out of the tub, and she just kind of crashed on the couch for a little bit. And her placenta came out in like 25 minutes. And so at one point she said that she was cramping and she could feel like it was coming, and we had covered her in a bunch of blankets to keep her and baby warm. And so I was sitting by her feet, and I just kind of lifted up the blanket, and she pushed, and this huge gush of blood came out and covered me. And then I looked down, and she's just kind of pouring blood out, but I could see her vulva was open and the placenta was just sitting right there. And so I pulled the placenta out with the cord, got it in a bowl, and she was just still pouring blood. So I got chucks underneath her, and I checked her fundus, and it was firm, but when I checked, more gushes of blood. And so she had a lot of blood loss, but felt fine the whole time. I asked my assist to get the Pitocin and just keep it nearby. And I just kept saying, how are you feeling? You feel good? And she was like, yeah, I feel great. So we never gave her anything, and her bleeding stopped. And usually I don't assist placentas out. Usually mamas just do it on their own, but I really wanted that placenta out. And it was right there asking to be taken.
So when you, I guess mostly related to placentas because we're talking about that, but you see bleeding that's like, gushing or something that you're like, oh, okay, this is going down the stream in a different direction. What's the first line you think of?
The first line?
Like,
you mean of like action?
Yeah.
I usually think of bringing the Pitocin close by. That's usually the first thing I want. Yeah, because it's usually off in the corner somewhere. Right. And so that's usually my thought. I mean, I'm just thinking of the last couple births where, it popped into my head, and it's like, I just want it like sitting next to me. It just feels like as long as like if you keep the medicine in your pocket, you won't need it kind of
Sure,
thing. So
totally.
that has been the first thing that I ask, is to bring it closer. And then I'm usually checking the fundus, and checking in on how she feels, or just looking at her and seeing how she feels. Yeah. What about you?
I was trying to think about the Angelica, when we've done that for bleeding. Because we talked about this birth, and I can't remember when I asked you this, but I was like, when's the last time we did do Pitocin? Because you were saying you haven't done Pitocin since you started?
Since I was a student.
Since you were a student. So,
I mean, I've done
like,
them for other midwives I
you've been-
assisted for, but not in my practice.
Right, but not your clients. And I was just thinking, us working together, when was the last time we did Pitocin? And I can think of one time. I mean, the one that comes to mind was a retained issue, but I don't think we've done Pitocin for a long time since we started working together. And I feel like, if I'm just trying to think of the things we actually have done that weren't like breastfeeding or you know,
yeah, I mean,
sport, like not cohosh, shepherd's purse and Angelica. I feel like we've done droppers of that,
but I feel like those are usually more about the placenta and less about bleeding.
I've always read that it was for hemorrhage.
They're both for hemorrhage around the placenta, though. Like, it's to bring the placenta and then to contract the uterus. Shepherd's purse isn't about placenta. It's just about uterus. Because you don't give shepherd's purse before the placenta.
Yes. No, I meant more like the Angelica is less about like a mom actively hemorrhaging, and more for what I've used it for in the past, and more of a, okay, it's been a while for a placenta, let's like work through our steps, kind of thing. Like, what do we want to try first, and that kind of thing.
See, I've never used it. I haven't used it to like encourage placenta birth. I've used it like bleeding's kind of continuing, and the placenta doesn't like, seem like it's coming. So I've done like 2 dropperfuls under the tongue. And then afterwards, after placenta, I've done shepherd's purse for boggy uterus. And then I've left it with families, which might get me in trouble because I don't know if I'm supposed to do this. But I've left it with people and been like, hey, if you feel like you're bleeding a little bit more, you're concerned, do this and then call me.
Yeah. I mean, I don't think anyone needs a medical license to purchase
them.
I think that's where the line gets drawn,
Yeah.
Yeah, you can go down to Whole Foods and get that. So
right.
Yeah.
Other placental abnormalities that either of you have seen?
I've seen like calcium deposits. I mean, I don't know if that's what that was, but just big white like bubbles all over the placenta. And I was like, that's interesting.
Like, are you talking about maternal side or fetal side? Like where the vessels,
fetal side.
Yeah, fetal side. You're talking about like bubbles within the membrane or the tissue?
Yeah, within the membrane.
Yeah, calcifications are more on the maternal side, and they're like gritty white deposits on the maternal side.
No, it was on the fetal side, and it was like big bubbles that could be popped.
Oh yeah, then that's not calcium.
I would think more like a cyst,
or
something.
Yeah, or like fatty deposits.
Oh, okay, because it was like white. Just
yeah, maybe fatty deposits.
I'm trying to think of like the cool placentas that I love placentas. We all love placentas. Trying to think of the more interesting ones. I mean, I had a client who was also a student midwife years ago. She didn't care anyway, but she had a like total velamentous insertion, which I guess doesn't really have to do so much with the placenta, but it was like
kind of
the cord was directly inserted on the opposite side of the amniotic sac. I mean, it was crazy. I've had some where I'm like, oh, that kind of looks velamentous, but this was like, shocking. And she had multiple ultrasounds and nothing had picked it up, and nothing, and her water broke. have a picture of it somewhere. I'll try to find it for you guys. Her water broke, and her, it's her second baby. I was there for like 5 seconds, but her husband and her son caught him. And after the placenta was born, everything came out. There was like a hole where baby came through that was like 2 inches above on all sides. There were vessels.
Oh, wow.
Like it was like the one spot where the bag of waters could open and not rupture anything. And all of us,
Babies
the midwives
know.
went and like changed our underwear after that. We were just like, holy
and
shit.
this is why we don't rupture membranes.
Exactly. No, that was, and the midwife who assisted me, she actually missed the birth, but she was there right after. She was like, man, this is why we just, it's like, we just don't. It was one of the most clear ones she'd ever seen. And she's been practicing for like, 30 years, 30 plus years. It was Diane. She didn't care. But yeah, so that was crazy. That was one of those, like, this is why we don't fuck with birth.
Right. Yeah.
Because
babies know.
Well, the baby probably wouldn't have pushed through a vessel.
Right.
You know?
But a little.
But an opening, but a hook totally could.
Yeah, that's amazing.
That is crazy.
So what is the longest time frame you've seen a placenta come out? Because, they say the average is 20 minutes and that it should be out, within 30. And I know some care providers will wait an hour, but most people don't feel comfortable going longer than that. What has been your experience in
an hour?
An hour. And then, what are the steps usually to help facilitate?
A shot of Pitocin and cord traction.
Have you ever seen it go poorly, or do they usually just come out after that?
I've just noticed, it's tough because I didn't know what I didn't know, but like definitely seeing that clients didn't want that. And I was like, just doing what I was told to do. And I thought that's what we were supposed to do. But it was kind of always expected that as soon as the baby was born, we would get them out of the water and we would try and get the placenta out with nipple stimulation and nursing. And if that didn't work, then just trying to see if the placenta was there and ready to come out. But I've definitely pulled on a cord and seen that the birthing person was not super enthused, but what was the question?
Just how long have you seen providers wait for a placenta? And then if they choose to do anything, what do they do to try to get it out?
Getting the placenta out. Yeah. And I've talked to other students that have pulled on a cord and pulled the cord off.
Oh gosh.
And that's like, okay, now what?
I snapped my own cord.
Yeah.
After
you're fired.
Yeah.
It's pretty crazy.
Yeah. What about you, Leah?
Yeah, it's changed a lot for me from, different providers. I think the timeline is similar. Like definitely after an hour, it's the topic. It's like, what's going on? It's not anymore at all in my practice or yours, I think, Sophia.
Yeah, I think we've kind of said that, until 45 minutes, we don't even really bring it up. Obviously, if there's an issue and there's bleeding, that kind of thing.
Well, and sometimes moms are like, okay, is this done? Like, should I be doing something? I just want to have this finished. And it's like, okay, why don't we try the birth stool or turn nursing or whatever. But I think it was generally within the first half hour for sure. And like wanting that to be done before we move to the bed and before we move to start, tidying up or doing, it's like that needs to be in sequence before these other things. And
well, and it does when it is delayed, if it's even delayed, it does leave this lingering feeling of you're not done yet, and I've seen some moms who their placentas do take longer, where they are a little frustrated not even because of any pressure from anyone, but just I want to be done. I just want to like cuddle with my baby, and it feels like unfinished business.
And feeling crampy, and I don't feel good, and
And it's part of the stages of birth, right? Third stage. So once that's complete is when you do enter postpartum. So it is still kind of like a piece of the birth that's continuing. But yeah, as I practice longer, obviously and with you, Sophia, like it's just not something that's like prime on the mind, you know. I would say around an hour is pretty typical. It's either like it just happens and it's done, or like around an hour we're like, oh, well, maybe you want to start doing this, or, you know, usually it's the birthing person's lead when they're sort of like, okay, I'm ready to just kind of be done, like you said. You know, in the hospital, it's just, I'm lucky enough to not have to be at hospital births very often. But if I ever am, and I see the delivery of a placenta, it just like cements into my heart how I don't want to do it, because it's so violent and it's just so intense.
Yeah, I know. And I think the way I practice has a lot to do with actually my first birth, because in hindsight, I felt like there was a lot of pressure put on me to get my placenta out. And we tried a bunch of different things and finally decided to transport it 4 hours. And I always wonder what it would have been like if that pressure wasn't put on me. If the reason it didn't come is because I felt so much pressure. And so I just always questioned that. Later, it wasn't even initially, it was like years later in processing my birth experience. But yeah, so usually, unless, you know, moms are asking sooner about getting it out, we usually just don't even bring it up. And then, you know, 45 minutes to an hour, we just say, you know, are you feeling crampy? You know, just do a check-in, because the placenta is still not out. And of course, we're talking about all this prenatally as well. But just like a reminder, if they're just so engrossed in their baby, like reminder, not done yet. So let us know when you're feeling crampy. And sometimes placentas just evacuate themselves, and other times you really got to push it out, you know, especially the longer the clock is ticking. You know, mama's got to get up and really bear down. And some have said it felt like not like giving birth again, obviously, because there's no bones and all that, but that they really had to put effort into it. They just thought it was just going to fall out, you know? Yeah. So, and I know some things are usually our first to go to is, you know, get her up to pee, get her to the toilet, give her some alone time. Maybe depending on how she's feeling, we've had some mamas climb in the shower, you know, and just kind of eat something. And of course, baby nursing, all those things. I'm thinking of one birth in particular where we tried a bunch of things and we ended up having her lay on her back in bed, grab one of our arms in like a crunch position. And when she felt a contraction, and then with like gentle cord traction, because it was just like sitting right there. But every time she tried to pull the placenta out, she was like, oh, no, you know, it's because it feels like a big thing, you know? And then, yeah, with that like crunch and everything and the slight pull, it just came right out. And she was like, oh, that's so much better.
I feel like that's happened a couple of times. I'm trying to think of who you're talking about. But yeah, I feel like it ends up being like, okay, I'm just ready for this to be done. And usually it's right there.
Yeah,
and
usually.
It's just a matter of like, you know, like I've helped guide placentas, even forcefully, like I'm pulling, but we know it's detached and it's just sitting there. And it's, you know, I feel like people have said your abdominal muscles are just so tired. They're like, I don't even think I can push.
Yeah. So that's why I think that crunch really helped, because it like basically forced it, you know, to contract. But when I doulaed for a family that was free birthing, after her baby was born, you know, and like an hour or so went by, and she said, okay, I think I'm, you know, feeling good. And we just kind of want alone time. And so we left. And I normally wouldn't have done that as a midwife, but, because the placenta had not been born, but they were a family that was taking full responsibility, and they just wanted me there for support for the birth. And her placenta ended up taking 19 hours, and she did end up really like handing the baby over to the dad, still attached to the cords, still attached to the placenta inside her body, and got against the wall. And just, she was like, it was like I was in labor pushing again. I just had to push with all my might. I can only imagine her cervix probably had closed up, around the cord. So she was like, I had to work hard to deliver that placenta. And we had, talked about things to look for, and checking fundus and bleeding and all that. But it was amazing to see 19 hours and everything was okay. And it just kind of opened my eyes to what the range of normal could look like, and I've never seen anyone go that long before. I've heard stories, but I kind of bring it up with my families that just because it stays in doesn't mean something's wrong necessarily. It could, but it doesn't mean that. And, she wasn't done with her labor process, and she just wanted to, she was tired and wanted to go to bed. And so talking about how it can get more difficult to get the placenta out later because the cervix does start to close. So yeah, but that was really eye-opening to me.
And is that different for every person?
Like the timing?
Mm-hmm.
I don't think that one woman like has a certain time frame that she delivers the placenta in. Is that what you're asking?
No, when the cervix begins to close.
Oh, I assume it's slightly different for everyone. But I don't know if anyone's ever checked, postpartum.
Because that's like the main reason why we want to get it out.
I mean, and the fact that bleeding can continue and
infection.
Yeah, just, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Just to have it be done. Yeah, I mean, my placentas just like presented themselves almost instantly after birth.
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't have any personal experience with placental frustrations.
Mm-hmm.
I don't even remember June's placenta delivery. It was when I at the hospital.
Mm-hmm.
It was like, I don't remember birthing it. I don't remember where it went. I know I didn't have Pitocin or anything. I was sutured.
You weren't a midwife or student midwife at that point?
I was a student midwife.
You were a student midwife.
Yeah.
Okay.
But it was new. I like really didn't.
Mm-hmm. And you were probably just so enamored with your baby.
Yeah, I was. I was high as a kite.
Yeah. And that was one of actually the most frustrating parts was I feel like I missed out on a few hours in the beginning there with him because I was so focused on trying to get it out and do all the things that the only time I really held him, besides when he was immediately born, was nursing him to try to get the placenta. But the point of nursing him wasn't just to nurse him, it was to get the placenta out. There's just like so much focus. It felt like so much pressure to me.
The clock.
Yes.
Starting at the clock.
Yes.
Yeah. So for, if we're in a situation where it's like, okay, we're wanting to, mom's asking for some tools to help bring the placenta. She's kind of over it. We haven't been looking at the clock by any means. Nothing's wrong, stuff that we've done to help bring placenta. Cohosh, right?
Mm-hmm.
I haven't done Angelica, but you have, Sophia.
And I've done the homeopathics of black and blue cohosh too.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder what else, like if people want to comment too on the Instagram page, like if we post something like tips that they things that they do, tricks.
Yes.
Obviously like nursing baby.
Yes.
Nipple stimulation.
Just even getting up and like
squatting. Gravity.
Mm-hmm. Alone time, privacy, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, I personally had tried the cord traction. And I remember looking at my midwife and saying, so can I hurt myself? Can I pull too hard? And she was like, you'll know, you'll feel it, if it's not right. And I was like, okay, cool. And so I pulled as hard as I could. It didn't hurt at all, but the cord snapped off. I was sitting on the toilet, and because when it snapped, it just like splattered the door with blood.
Oh my gosh.
And so she got like a hemostat and clamped it. And, I was just laughing. It wasn't.
I don't think I've ever seen that before. That's impressive.
I was like, well, that didn't work.
It is interesting to talk to other midwives in the community about sort of our placenta ways, because their eyes get big.
Mm-hmm.
I did a birth probably a year ago with a midwife friend who I think it was 5 hours the placenta took, 4 or 5. And she just was like, tell me about placenta. Tell me how you do placentas. And I was sort of like, okay, well, I don't really do them. That's why.
They do me.
Yeah. But I think that we're supposed to have them out sooner.
Emma, when you did your module for placentas, was there any other remedies that we didn't mention for retained placenta?
Yeah, I was just trying to remember that. I think just homeopathy, the calophyllum, and Simisafuga.
Perfect.
Simisafuga. That's a fun thing to say. And pulsatilla were all what I researched. Yeah, I need to go back and research again. But that was what came up for placenta.
Yeah. And I think the bottom line for all of us is just, in allowing, in quotes, families to be pressure free in their placentas, we've been able to see such this wide variety of delivery times, and just trying to remind ourselves to treat each family individually and look for symptoms of, issue basically, and not treating them all the same. And if a mom is doing great and there's no signs of problems, then what's the harm in waiting? Because we've been to enough births now where we've seen there is no harm other than her frustration, occasionally.
I think picturing like the placenta just rolling out into a bowl, I feel like complications have decreased significantly. That I've seen in my own practice, and then just doing births with you in general. Like when we just don't, it just doesn't feel like this edge of like, and now, like baby's coming, or we're watching for core, watching for this, and now we're watching for placenta. Like I just feel that kind of melt away.
That we're not just watching for the bad things, that we recognize.
It just comes, it just comes. So, I would love randomly before we go is I do love placentas, and I don't, I wonder if there are people that, lots of people do encapsulation and like do prints and stuff, but if there's anyone that knows like placenta magic, like more details about things to make with the placenta, or like ways to incorporate it into hemorrhage prevention or stopping it, or just like the magic around the placenta, that would be a fun interview.
Thanks everybody for listening. You can find us at Born Wild Podcast on Instagram. For inquiries or feedback, you can email us at bornwildpodcast@gmail.com. You can find me, Emma Ray, on Instagram at Emma Ray, REA. Sophia at sophiabirth.com.
And me, Leah, at Bay Area Home Birth.
We would really appreciate it if you would rate and review us on Apple Podcasts. It helps us reach more people. And as always, stay wild.